Okay, so we are on the first sales call of April, talking about what did you name it, Shania?
Leveraging your existing leads.
Leveraging your leads. So I'll get the slideshow pulled up, and Shania will get us started talking through some of this information.
Mm-hmm.
Are you able to see this?
Yep.
Awesome. Get it a little bit bigger. There we go.
Perfect. So like Kelly had said, we're going to kind of talk about how you leverage your existing leads. So meaning individuals who you either made contact with or, have seen in passing, maybe word of mouth, sent them an email, text, etc. And we'll delve in how you can tap into that market and make it successful for the future.
Awesome.
All right. So where do you currently store your client leads? So Kelly, I'll ask you, where do you currently store your client leads?
Well, I know the right answer to this, so I'm going to answer it like it was 5 years ago, before I knew any of this. And so I would say I would just kind of post and pray, and look at Instagram followers and then hand out my business card wherever I ended up. And like nothing real formal, so it wasn't really information that I pertain, like I certain like kind of you could say owned.
Yeah. So that's exactly right. So that nowhere, right? Just give them your business card, good to go. Who was that again that I spoke with last week? Oh, I don't
Yeah,
really remember.
at least with Instagram and Facebook, you have a paper trail,
Yeah,
back.
exactly right. So like I think based on your kind of response is exactly kind of what we're looking for. So like maybe it's kind of a mumbo jumbo of certain things and really having one succinct area. So it's great to have an email list because you can mass produce emails and BCC people on there and just keep it buttoned up and nice. Text is fine, right? But then it's like where is their number? Where are you storing it? So really having an email list and having a spot to store it is super important. And like, not to say that the DMs aren't bad on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, what have you. But again, those are kind of getting lost in like feeds. Someone comments, on your post, but then you got like someone four posts down you forget about. So really kind of having a succinct spot where you store those leads is crucial. And if you feel like you want to keep them on one of those portals like Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, make sure you're keeping a log or record on it, whether that be in like your notes on your iPhone, pen and paper, or in like a Google Drive so that you feel like you're staying caught up on them and not just like swipe, next scroll on Instagram, I'm on my way.
Yeah. Well, and I do think that, you're talking about leads, which are different than prospects, right?
Right.
Prospects are like people, like just you're trying to get your information out there, say on social media. So
Mhm.
prospects, and that's a great place for DMs, right? Because we don't even know
Mhm.
if they're a real, like they're really interested. With leads, they've expressed some kind of interest. So I
Right.
like this because it is good to differentiate between the two.
I agree. And then maybe that DM turns into a lead, right? So that
That's,
prospect, like you get their email from the DM, and then that becomes part of your lead list, if you will.
yeah.
So the biggest thing is like, how do you currently follow up and how frequently? So obviously, we don't want to be following up every day, like, hi, it's me again, just seeing if you need PT. But really having a cadence, whether that's, you give them a couple weeks to kind of cipher through, or if you're like, you saw them in person, like we had said before, you got their email, and now you want to follow up in a few days to see if they're ready to, get their knee pain under control. But what we will say is Kelly and I have both learned it takes 11 hours of content viewing before someone is ready to quote unquote pull the trigger or invest in a product like physical therapy and make a decision to quote unquote buy. So even though you're not getting the likes, even though they may not be messaging you, they're seeing your content, and that's what's important to kind of get that buy-in. So just making sure that we're following up at a cadence which seems right given the individual and their values and their timeline, right? If Kelly came to me and Kelly, you're like, hey, my shoulder hurts. I want to go be able to play football in the pool this, summer with my son. Okay. I want to get you in as quickly as you can, right? So maybe we follow up in a day or two after that initial kind of lead came in and they sparked interest. But if it's someone's like, no, I don't know about PT. I'll have to learn more about it. Like maybe give them a little time and really maybe have another conversation with them to cast the value of what you can offer for your service.
That's great. Do you ever kind of set limits on yourself? Like if you have someone who's, if you have a lead and then they're just not answering, do you kind of set a limit on that? Because sometimes, I mean, people are just busy and they really are interested, but they haven't gotten back with you.
I feel like I'm someone who is like that little like, hi, it's me again. So I'll give you a patient example. I had a patient who unfortunately had an unfortunate circumstance happen, canceled their visit. I followed up with them day of to kind of, spark some additional contacts about appointments. Gave them a little time. Followed up probably like a week later, nothing, kind of crickets. Followed up one more time just to see like, hey, how things are going, check in, what have you. And then after that second time, I'm like, I don't want to be too much of a burden here, given circumstances and what have you. And then this week they reached back out to me. So truly, my like unwritten rule is usually two times without any contact. And then, if they're following up with you and giving you contact, but then kind of waiting a little bit of time, I still would, follow up again because they sparked interest with that two-time rule. Like they texted you back, they emailed you back, follow up again. If you hear nothing, maybe wait another week and follow up one time after that. Because you don't want to be kind of a quote unquote pest, but you also want to make sure that they're still hearing from you. Because, like you said, yeah, they get busy. Like this guy is an
Yeah.
example. He's like, I'm traveling for work. I've been busy. Sorry, I didn't get back to you. And for me, I'm like, oh, is he not, like in his results? We go to the worst thing, but truly, you have to cast the vision and the value, and, not be a pest, but remember, like, they wanted to come to you in the first place. That's why they are a lead and sparked interest. So try not to be too afraid to, quote unquote, knock on their door again.
Yeah, that's good. That's good
What
advice.
is your unwritten rule?
Well, that's why I asked because I don't really have one because I feel like following up with leads is definitely a gray area for me. And so I've had some email interest as of late, and then I'll email them, nothing. And then I just think, how many times should I email them? And email is a little different because it's not, they can, it's easier, it's more easily ignored. So I want to say, like, maybe I'm leaning towards like three emails, like, hey, I get it, haven't heard from you in a while, booking up,
Mm-hmm.
things like maybe you're not interested anymore. So let me know if that's not the case. It was kind of where I was thinking.
I think that's great. And I think kind of like a sense of urgency. We didn't touch on that, but like I like
Yeah,
that sense of urgency of like, hey, I'm booking up. Sounds like you might not be interested anymore. Is that the case? Like leave it open-ended so that they're like, oh wait, no, no, I'm sorry. I wanted to get
right.
in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
love that.
like they need you, not vice versa. Of course, we
Yeah.
want to treat people, but like we also
Mhm.
want it to be seen like we're desperate for you to come in, so we're just
Yes.
gonna keep begging you. Like, no,
Yes.
you're the one who you called me to start.
Right. And that's how I felt with this individual too, because they had reached out to me. I didn't find them. They found me randomly on the internet. And then it was like, well, they were loving their results. And then you go down this rabbit hole of like, well, were they not getting better? Like we think it's on us, but it's like truly they're just busy. So I think like too, not trying to get into that negative mindset of like, oh, they're not responding because they didn't like their care or they, there's
Yeah.
always something else that we're unaware of. So just keeping optimistic. And I like that, urgency, Kelly, because that really will spark them to respond, which is
Oh
good.
yeah, setting a timeline, setting a deadline that
Yep.
sparks people to click the pay now button.
Yep.
Mhm.
Just like you this morning with your, 9 a.m. slot getting filled. You just put it out there and boom.
Yep. It's the last
Um,
one for 5 days, so you better get it if you want it now.
It's great. So I think the big thing too is tailored examples. So with existing leads, like can you jot down something that you remember about them, right? Why did they reach out to you in the first place? Can you gain a little bit of insight so that when you follow up, it's meaningful versus like, do you need PT? And they're like, I don't know, what? No. Are you interested in reducing your neck pain after just one visit? It was awesome to meet you. If so, here's my booking link below. We can get you in for a free, injury screen, or if you want to do a call with them initially, just to kind of, spark the memory for you and the patient in terms of why they're reaching out initially. But I think making it personal, casting the value, and then if you can jot down any notes on that email list, or if you're doing the notes in your phone, so that it's not just that number mentality. It's truly that tailored approach so you remember why they reached out to you in the beginning.
Absolutely.
And then here's another example. So, if you're hosting an event, several therapists on the team have been awesome at this with partnerships, with, local entities, you as well, Kelly, the volleyball gym, but like pleasure meeting you at the tennis match last weekend. Are you interested in reducing your forearm pain after just one visit? So that's like a direct follow-up based on the knowledge that you gain. They said their backhand is bothering them. and you want to help them. And then you can send that direct like call to action, like you've really touched on heavily in our calls, Kelly, is like, what's that next step? It's great to follow up, but like, how are we getting them to take action and not just read the email and then boop, move on to the next thing? So clicking the link below to either schedule or get in with a free injury screen call or something of that nature.
Yeah, clear call to action. What are next steps? Don't be fuzzy about it. Be very concise and clear.
And then the in-person. So this is kind of going back to our initial conversation, like popping back into facilities. So kind of dovetailing off that last slide, if you're going into facilities or hosting events, following up and showing that like you do want to be a part of it, right? I mean, example for you, Kelly, like you went into a volleyball gym, you weren't super familiar with the space, but you made yourself known and kind of, sparked interest so that you could have success in that space and get to know the clientele and get to know the players and spend extra time, even though that time sometimes is not always have a dollar sign attached. That really will allow you to have success and build rapport so that they feel comfortable and confident in your services. And I just like to use you because, again, great on your part with that. And then I think you had kind of talked about this texting the business cards too, or even emailing them so that you have a point of contact rather than just like, oops, left my card, like I had said before, because then you have nothing. You gave them your card and now we have nothing. So either the texting, so you have their number and you can get their email later, or you follow up with them with the business card via email and get it right then and there so you don't have to remember or forget. And then that's a great way too to schedule pop-ins or kind of follow-ups for next steps.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love to do that at doctor's offices as well.
Which is great because then the more they see you, right,
Yeah.
they're bought in. And then I think the biggest thing is being professional and being consistent. So casting the value and avoiding like going into storytelling mode, like, oh yeah, I can get your pain better in just one visit. And I've had this person that had the same thing. And I saw this, individual last week. No, they don't care. They want to know how you're going to help them with their problem and how you're going to relate it back to them. So creating the head nods and yeses. So for example, like, do you want to be able to walk on the beach with your grandkids without worrying about your ankle mobility?
Yes.
Yes. Do you want to be able to, throw the ball for your dog so your dog remains active and isn't overweight without worrying about your shoulder pain?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to be able to, practice golf, with your son or daughter so that they can play in the tournament next weekend? Like those are the micro yeses, as Kelly likes to say too. And getting the head nod, like, yeah, like I'm in. You don't have to say anymore. You don't have to explain away. You just ask questions that are tailored so that you can get to the value. And it might not always be that first thing like we talked about before. Like they're like, yeah, I feel, like tired because I'm just laying around because of my shoulder. But really, it's that they want to be able to throw the ball for their dog, not that they're
Right.
tired because of their shoulder. So, yeah. All right. So, what about the pushback? So, we've only talked about the positives. So, what if they're like, why would I spend $175 on a valve when I can just use my insurance? And you're like, well, my care is the best. I'm just going to explain myself away. No,
Right.
we're not going to do that. We're going to ask them about their physical therapy experience. Okay. And then, Kelly, you've really touched on, which I've loved, is like, what is that experience? And can you tell me a little bit about it in terms of was it a positive interaction? Was it a positive outcome? Or was it maybe, not what you were looking for? And I think the biggest thing that we have going for us in the cash pay space is time. Okay. So we still deal with this on the daily. It's like chiropractic. We're going to go one visit. I'm feeling good, right? Like then they're going to crack me and I'm done. No. With PT in the cash pay setting, we can get you better faster. So like the bread and butter is, do you want to start seeing results after just one visit? Yes. Otherwise, why would they be coming to us? And then having a more convenient physical therapy experience where they don't have to drive to a clinic, get childcare, sit in the waiting room for 15 minutes, and then sit another 10 because now their PT's booked with 3 other patients. They're going to put them on a bike before they even get information on their injury. Like, yes, no, I don't want to do that. I want the one-on-one experience. And then the big thing too, like, do you want to start an exercise routine that's specific to you and your injury so that you can work outside of PT to get better? Like, yes, that's what we want. So that's why they're coming to us in the first place is maybe they haven't had a super good experience or they're just looking to see what we have to offer. And we don't want to explain that away, to exhaustion.
Yeah. And I just thought of something when you said, tell me a little about your previous PT experience. Like maybe it was fantastic. And that's
Yeah.
great. That's what we want.
Mhm.
as we want all of our profession to be delivering great results and for patients to be pleased. But if they're having a conversation with you, obviously maybe you know them or they've seen something about you. And I think acknowledging that that experience was great is just a credit to our profession, but
Mhm.
also like, how does that how do we differentiate ourselves? And you mentioned the time. So
Mhm.
that's so great. And what we've seen, or probably not a we, what you could see with concierge physical therapy is even more convenience, even better results because you're getting the time with the physical therapist one on one. So that would even skyrocket your results with this round of physical therapy. You know, you could piggyback off of that. Like that's not a bad thing in your for arguing for rebutting some of those oppositions is that they love
Mhm.
their other PT. That's fantastic. They're obviously talking to you for a reason. So that's how you can kind of navigate it.
I love that. And I think too, like I will use this instructor and Kelly knows it well. So Tunde Oyeneyin is a Peloton instructor and she always says that like time is the only currency that we don't know the true value to. So if someone isn't, sold, it's like tomorrow's never guaranteed, right? Like we want to make sure that the value that we're providing is getting them to the results that they want in the best and most efficient way possible. So like really casting the light on like okay, I want you to play with your dog in a couple weeks. Like, let's do it. Let's get you better after that one visit and really just like playing off of that value so that even though if their previous experience was good, bad, what have you, they're sold. They're bought in. They want to get better and they want it to be timely. They don't want to come 12 visits and, be still, beating their head against the wall because they haven't seen results. So really
Right.
want to cast that vision. Okay, big takeaways. Using calendar reminders to stay up on follow-ups is key. I would be lost without them. I forget all the time. I'm like, oh yeah, I got to follow up with that person. So keeping that up. I think the biggest thing with that too is with existing leads, who are existing leads, current patients too. So if you discharge someone, follow up with them, 1 to 2 weeks post-discharge, see how they're doing. Okay. Do you have anything else to offer to them? Kelly has recently created a monthly membership experience where she's going to offer dry needling, cupping, and then a home exercise program. So that is awesome. That is kind of like what we would call an upsell, but in a meaningful way so that they can continue their results post discharge. For
Yeah.
me, sometimes I will offer personal training services. So I've gotten you to your goals, but now we have something else we want to focus on despite that strength, range, balance, etc., being solid. Now what's next? So that can be a great way to leverage existing patient leads and then kind of continue up because that is kind of where we fill in the gaps with the medical system too. It's like we discharge you and we don't see you anymore, right? We don't want that. We want to be that first line contact. So if we treated them for their shoulder, they're going to come back to us for their ankle. And then that follow-up is a great time to send out the patient satisfaction survey. And that is great for you as a clinician to be able to market to current audience. So maybe, we're talking back to that 11 hours of feed time. Now you've got some reviews. And before I wasn't sold, but now I see you have another 5-star review and I'm bought in. So think of it that way too. And then casting the value. So like the continuous follow-up of like if they're not sold that first time, that's okay. But follow up and continuously shed light on their problem, their issue. Okay. Like Kelly said before, we don't want to be like begging them to come to PT. We want them to be like, oh my gosh, I want to get in now, right? Like how do I become a part of this? Right. So shedding light on their problem and kind of the result that they're going to get from physical therapy is really going to allow them to be quote unquote sold. And then the professional standard, right? We are doctors of physical therapy. We work for ourselves and we are in a cash-based space, but we should be professional, okay? Always buttoned up, emulate the standard that you would want. I think the analogy of some of the sales training that we've done, there is a specific podcast that kind of comes and goes about an example of a nurse that came in and one of the sales girls had felt super pumped about this nurse because she was just like a 20-year tenure. She was awesome. But then she started answering her phone and talking to her kids during like a labor and delivery time. And then all that trust, all that rapport was gone. So just remember, like, you are a professional. You want to be professional in your delivery and kind of always, the patient is your one focal point at that time. Everything else can wait. And then just make sure that, you're always preparing with insightful questions that are tailored to them rather than just like I don't see why you don't want PT. I told you I could get you better. Like, no, that's not what we want. That we're just getting frustrated at that point. So just, it's okay. You're not going to sell every single person, but like keep asking questions. Don't, split it away with frustration. And
Right.
then I think too, do you have anything to add with that, Kelly?
And well, and one thing that's been beneficial for me for casting the value is reminding myself of the value. I
Hmm.
think we heard in some training, you can't sell if you're not sold. And
Hmm.
after doing this for almost 20 years, I sometimes forget how impactful it is, how good it is for individual patients. And you just get kind of caught up in the day-to-days and you forget like this could help you so much. You could
Hmm.
learn how to do this and not have pain and be able to go, and so just reminding myself of what physical therapists are capable of as medical providers has been a big deal as I've gotten busier as of late. It's just being completely sold on the service that I can deliver, and that in itself enables you to cast the value.
I agree, 100%. And this ties into the confidence. So we can go back just one. I want to talk about the confidence piece. So you are the expert, so treat each follow-up as such. So yesterday I had a follow-up with someone who's kind of been like wavy throughout care. Initially evaluated them back in November, and this is a perfect example of confidence. They were kind of like just, not really bought in, if you will. They'd come to PT, but then they'd cancel. And then now this individual's been very consistent. So discharge time, right? Well, I don't know if I maybe want to get imaging or a second opinion. So I'm like, okay, not me, right? What have we done thus far? Like numbers don't lie. Your pain was at a 7, now it's at a 2. It's not bothering you. You can sleep. So I think like even though like we may leverage our leads, we also have to leverage the leads that we have, which are our patients, and really focus on like the value and what we've provided, because we go into the frustration mode of like what they're going to find something on an MRI. I don't know why you would do that. If they want to do that, that's their choice. So always leading with like that's totally okay. If you want to, go get imaging, totally cool. But overall, like I know this has been a long injury, but we had some time where we took some time off, and now we've just gone back into it and your pain's at a 2 at worst. Don't you think that's better than a 7? Then they're like,
Right.
yeah,
That's
so I think it's
leveraging objective leads. You could think of it
yes,
that way. It's leveraging
yes,
objective data to maintain, to
yes.
nourish, to culture that lead.
Because even the leads that we do have, we still have to sell them every single session. So that's where the professionalism comes in with the patients. So I just want to touch on that a
Yeah,
bit.
absolutely. And that's not anything that I learned in physical therapy school. I did not learn how to establish a buy-in from a patient. I learned the evidence, the exercise, the techniques, and then you just do them. And why would you not? The psychology of all of that was not taught. That was
No.
learned. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because cash pay isn't the norm. You're going to work in a clinic for the rest of your life. So why would we learn that?
Yeah.
Okay, big things. Kelly, what questions do you have about any of this stuff? Or is there anything that kind of, I know, sparked interest to you or,
Sure,
you know,
I have a question. Definitely loved the your answer on like how many times would you reach out to a patient? Do you kind of have like a go-to? I know you individualize anything. Do you kind of have a go-to question that you might ask a previous lead that you kind of, for like applicants for us, I always want to know what interested you in the company, what interested you in cash pay. Do you kind of have a lead, like an initial question you like to know, a little tidbit of information from potential leads for patients?
yeah, I think the biggest thing is like truly now more so than ever is like learning about them. So like when did this initially occur to you? Because a lot of times I think we're like, oh, this must have just happened. Like they're just coming to us now. It's good. So I think like my biggest lead in is like when did this initially occur and kind of what sparked you to reach out to physical therapy? Us in terms of, needing help. And I think more oftentimes than not, it's a chronicity that's been put on the back burner because they have kids, they have life, they have work. But like, a lot of times that is like, oh, it must have just happened last week. Like we kind of go like, oh, it's fresh. Like, let's get it going.
Right.
But truly, like a lot of times it's like months, they're like, yeah, this happened way back when, early January. And you're like, whoa, okay, well, now that changes your whole perspective. And, that's that's a great tool for buy-in because then they're ready. Like they came, like they've been ready for 3 months,
Yeah.
going 4 now, but they're really ready now because
Yeah.
this has been so annoying for that long that like time is of the essence in terms of what we can do our due diligence in and cash pay to get them better faster. So that's usually my go-to is kind of timeline and chronicity of initial injury because a lot of times people don't convey that. They're like, yeah, it's been bothering me, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. This was so good, Shania. Thank you so much for putting this
You
together
as
for
well.
everyone. I can't wait to use it. I mean, I literally have people in mind right now that I can use some of these questions with and just following up like, hey, how have you been? Remember when you reached out? What prompted that? Yeah, those are all great questions and information to be able to use to keep helping more people. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And I think the last thing I'll say is back to the memberships that Kelly has created. Those are available to the whole team. So we can help you kind of tailor them if you want to do like a monthly maintenance. I think that's a great way to leverage existing patients and leads and, generate revenue not only for you, but value for them. So they continue to be, buttoned up on their PT and they don't feel like, they're just done and that's it. So
And
if
you're
you have,
their go-to, like anything
yeah,
happens, you're their go-to because they're already
yep,
coming in. Yeah. And,
yep.
and so those memberships are for people that have completed a plan of care. So they've done all of those things. So because you want to make sure they're getting maximum, recovery results, all of those things before you offer some of these other modality type things that are helpful, but you just want to make sure they're maintaining. Yeah.
100%.
Thanks, Shania.